Hello everyone, welcome back. It's been a little while since I've done any kind of lesson videos, so I thought it'd be fun to come on today and talk about something I think that's like super important. I'm always fine-tuning my left hand and trying to find just a perfect kind of feel for my hand and my fingers and my thumb and my arm and everything to kind of get all the motions happening really fluid without a lot of effort. And for me, the most important thing is when I'm playing is I want to play in time. And we think of the right hand as really keeping time, but for me, when I find those motions and angles for my fingers to land and move in, like kind of like slots, I call them, kind of like everything's moving in conjunction, almost feels like it's just in a slot, like your fingers are just rolling together. Everything comes together and my timing is really happening when I do that. And the interesting thing is, for me, I spent a lot of time experimenting with the different angles, and a little while back I talked about, how maybe feeling like I was going downhill towards my little finger really helped me when I'm playing like the Yngwie style licks. But really, there's all sorts of little things that I do depending on what I'm playing. I noticed that I'll kind of have that downhill motion, or almost like my little finger is kind of more towards the floor than my first finger when I'm doing the fast 3-note per string stuff. Playing like pedal note runs across things more across the string, my hand angle totally changes. So it feels different, and I really experimented a ton getting it to feel right, and kind of angling my fingers. And for me, like right and left hand, everything's kind of changing, but I have a kind of a straight line. Like for my left hand, my little finger kind of keeps that angle, and the other finger, my hand might shift this way or that way, or uphill or downhill, I call it, depending on the phrase I'm playing. But I have that straight line with my hand kind of that I can pivot the motions off of, if that makes sense. If I'm doing the pedal tones, I kind of feel everything coming towards me. If I'm playing 3-note per string lines, I feel it going towards the floor. It's the best way I could explain it. And there's a whole bunch in between there. I spent a lot of time just letting my fingers move in the motion that's natural to my hand and my fingers. And it took a lot of experimenting to find those like slots, or what I call slots, is certain motions to happen. And when those motions start to happen, it's amazing how effortless you can play and how clean you can play, because you're totally moving your fingers in time. And if the pick's moving in time, everything's really in sync. And for me, the synchronization is like the most important thing. That's where all the cool tone happens. That's where the music is made. I'm in command of the phrasing, the timing, everything. So a couple little tips that I want to give you this today is basically, if you're practicing 3 notes per string stuff, I know in the past, like I would try to learn a lick and I would just practice it over and over and over and over, but I could never like get the timing right on the lick. I thought, what is going on here? Hours I would spend trying to play something, and I think it would be my right hand messing up or something. And then it dawned on me that a couple of things were happening. Number one was I wasn't feeling the motion as a rhythm, which I talk a lot about. But another thing was the angle of my hand, just by a slight little tweak this way or that way, depending on the line, totally changed like my technique. And once I discovered that I couldn't use the same hand position for everything, there was all sorts of little things going on depending on where I was playing. Sometimes my second finger might be more towards the floor, sometimes it might be more towards me, or my third finger, depending on where I'm playing, depending on the finger I'm playing next. And what I would do is I would just practice, finding some licks and really focus on playing those licks and allowing my hand to relax so much that the movements just happen on their own. And it's real neat and kind of interesting at first that when I did that, my brain didn't really know what I wanted to do. It felt weird kind of mentally, like in my brain, but I just allowed my hand to relax. And once I start feeling things in motions, in rhythmic motions, things really start to happen. So what I did was I just concentrated on little phrases and just try to get them down as in time as I could, practicing one little thing over and over and over, experimenting with my angles of my hand and my fingers, till the motion felt so relaxed that like I could do it forever and it was totally in time. So all sorts of little things going on there, kind of switching the movements, in my right and left hand. And when I'm playing like that, there's a lot of things going on depending upon the string change I'm doing and everything. I might have my third finger towards me more, or it might be towards the floor more. That subtle little thing of where the finger is on the string, whether it's more, what I mean by towards the floor, I mean in comparison to my first finger. So my first finger is kind of what I bank everything off of. And then these other fingers will be, like I could play like the second string. Say I got my first finger on the 5th fret, and I could play the 8th fret right on top of it, right in line with my second finger, or I could have it more towards the floor, or I could have it more towards me. So it'd be more like that. And those three little things are very kind of, important distinctions, depending upon the motion I'm playing. And you might not even realize that you're doing that, but if you try to play one way where you got your finger towards the floor, but the lick doesn't call for that, you can practice it for hours, kind of get it sounding good, and but it won't feel as good. You won't get to that next level that if you tweak it and maybe find the right position of the hand. These subtle little things kind of what separates like the monster players like Holsworth and Sean Lane, from a lot of guys that play really fast but don't have that sound that they did, that tone in the hand, those movements. Yngwie, all those guys have it. That real fluidity, Al Di Meola. If you watch Al play, his fingers are really moving. You can almost see the timing in his fingers. And everyone thinks of everyone thinks of Al as his right hand picking, but his left hand's really doing all this really intricate stuff, and he's really locked in and found those motions. I remember when I first was learning the Al Di Meola, like I called her, the Paul Gilbert lick. I spent hours on that, and it's not the right hand that I really had to concentrate on. It was the left hand and finding that slot in it. And for me, when I'm playing that lick, my little finger is actually towards the 3rd string more, like that, which is different than if I'm playing the Yngwie lick where my little finger is towards the floor. Kind of weird. It depends on the string I'm going to, which side of the string my finger tends to favor. And when I do that, the timing's there, and it's great. It works out great. And the timing on that lick's usually what I hear is wrong with, when a lot of people play it and they're struggling with it, it's the timing's off. But by practicing that, feeling that slot, getting the time down, my fingers just roll in the motion. The picking hand, it's weird. Like for me, the left hand, if I really get it and I'm just doing it and I just try to get as in sync as I can, the right hand kind of takes care of itself. But that could just be me. From playing a long time and just kind of feeling the motion. So I really recommend everyone check out Troy Grady's Cracking the Code if you haven't, because he goes in really a lot of detail with the right hand. So what I did was I would just take a lick or something that I was doing and experiment with the angle of my hand until it became secondary. But the main thing for me was the timing of the lick. Once the lick really was in time and it had a sound and a swing to it, I knew it was right. And whenever I felt that rhythm, that timing, that swing to my playing, that's when my hand motions felt the most relaxed, and I just practiced it till I memorized it. So you can sit down and just take a lick that you're doing, maybe you've been banging your head against the wall to try to get, and try just tweaking your hand, thumb up, thumb back, whatever angle of the hand. You can play like this or like this. I tend to play a little more where my little finger is kind of facing, kind of like if I had a volume knob or something here. My little finger is kind of facing that and always kind of touching the lower string. And then I just I kind of pivot my finger depending on the licks I'm playing Either my little finger towards the floor or my little finger might come back this way depending on the lick. And like I talked about in another video, for that was kind of having my little finger towards the floor more. And it worked great, kind of feeling it downhill towards my little finger. But when I played pentatonic licks, or if I was playing 3 note per string licks like this, that kind of stuff's different. My little finger's actually coming towards me, not towards the floor. Same with the pedal tones. When I do it, my little finger's coming towards me, which is different than if I was playing the Yngwie lick. And my hand just naturally switches between those, and there's all sorts of little things going on with my left hand to make these things happen, and my hand's relaxed, and I'm just feeling the rhythm, and it feels kind of like I'm tap dancing around the guitar, kind of like I'm, just playing rhythm or playing drums or dancing or something on the guitar. It's really a cool feeling rhythmically. And for me, there's just a certain freedom. It's just so cool. Like when I'm improvising, rhythm's the most important thing to me. The phrasing, the rhythm. I'm going to talk about this a lot more in some future lessons. That's what kind of gets me off, the no choice in the phrasing, where to leave the space, the fast, the slow. It's just not all fast. I get really bored by that, There's so many amazing players on Instagram, but when I'm scrolling through the thing, it's just kind of like, geez, it's like, for me, it's maybe I'm old, but it's almost overkill. I want to hear some really cool phrasing, take that speed and those amazing chops and do some really cool phrasing. That's what I loved about Sean Lane. The guy was like brilliant. The guy's phrasing was like no one else, just amazing. But he played that fast stuff, but it was always so cool. It didn't sound like a machine, Sometimes it's cool to make it sound like a machine, don't get me wrong. But the space and the phrasing's where it's at. Am I playing, I don't even consider it to, I'm not playing nearly as fast as these guys on Instagram now. It's just like, what is that? It's so amazing, And my hat's off to them. But for me, the speeds that I play at works great, and I can express myself. And I really love classical music and jazz and all that stuff. I kind of like to take kind of the classical approach and harmonically and flamenco and Spanish stuff and some Middle Eastern and kind of mix it up. But like if I was a jazz guy playing it, and improvise and kind of phrase and play through changes with that style. So that's kind of what my style is. But anyway, I decided to come on here and talk a little bit about these things and let you guys know that maybe change it up, Let your hands do their thing. Get out of your own way. That's kind of like my whole thing, is get out of my own way. When I'm learning emotion, I just fool around, kind of experiment with everything constantly, tinkering with everything until it feels good. Then I have to memorize that as muscle memory. And I might go in and out of it. I might start out where I'm playing it, then in the middle of it I lose it, and then I got to go back and relearn it. But then eventually everything's seamless and it's always there for me. And for me, I just experiment. I'm always experimenting with everything, just tinkering around, trying to find the best way to play stuff. Even this day, I'm always changing things up a little bit and trying to make it happen. And for me, I never want to wait. I think, well, I'll practice this lick every day for the next year, and then a year from now, I'll be shredding like Sean Lane or Yngwie. That never worked for me. For me, it was, I want to play this lick like them today. And I would sit around and just try to find the things to allow me to play those licks right now. And then I would just try to learn the muscle memory, and once the muscle memory was learned, everything cleaned up and it was always there and the control came. That's kind of how I always have done everything. And the same with the right hand. I'll go a little more in depth. What I'll probably do is take some actual licks, break them down, and show you kind of the movements that I'm doing for those licks, and see if that works for you. We're all different. We all have different size hands, different size fingers, some fingers along the other, longer than the other for different players. So things are going to be different for you. But I can talk a little bit about how I do it. So anyway, it's great to come on and talk to you guys. I missed doing this. I'm going to do a lot more of it. Get back into it in the fall now and kind of rock out. Maybe I'll do some more shred guitar in the 80s. Got some great releases coming out. We got like the Joe Stump Alcatraz stuff. The new Yngwie just came out. The Schenker came out earlier in the year. Joe Stump's got a solo album coming out, which is really cool. Just all sorts of cool stuff. So it's pretty exciting to get back into it. Anyway, thanks for joining me. I hope you guys are having a great day, and most of all, have fun picking.